In this ecology, the ancient tree is the biological anchor, where grass-type Pokémon have thrived for centuries. This is Treecko. It possesses a rare stoicism, an absolute self-control in every situation. An incursion is underway. Salazzle, the poison fire reptile, leaves a trail of fire and toxic gas. Treecko exhibits defiance. Bravery is not absence of fear, but this may be a biological miscalculation. Treecko's adhesion capability defies gravity. Its tail registers the extreme desiccation and stress vibrations. The intruder carries potent toxins. Treecko must rely on agility and ambush tactics. Pheromonal exposure makes the environment physiologically toxic. A diversionary attack provides a window for repositioning. Exhaustion is setting in. Every breath is a struggle against hypoxia and extreme thermal pressure. The living pillar is collapsing. Centuries of history are about to end in a single moment. Territorial instinct shifts into biological desperation. This physical exertion has broken the limit. The life cycle nears its end without immediate adaptation. Survival requires an extreme physiological response. The pressure of death activates forced metamorphosis. Biology is desperately attempting to self-regulate. This is Grovyle, a jungle warrior, defined by speed and destructive precision. The ending of the heritage created a new guardian. Speed is the new biological weapon. Grovyle uses its power to neutralize. Self-control remains, but power is magnified. The threat is eliminated. The intruder realizes this new opponent exceeds its capacity. The mission is accomplished. Despite the loss, life always finds a path to renewal. This is the shift from territory guardian to the seed carrier, assuming biological responsibility. The path to Sceptile is a long journey of rebirth and protection. This individual proves that coolness is the mask for a warrior's heart.
In the land of giants, Dratini's survival depends on its ability to become invisible. Flash ambush tactics, strike and vanish before the ripples spread. But when energy accumulation reaches its threshold, biology forces it to change. Dragonair, ethereal beauty, comes with a curse. It has nowhere left to hide. Safety ends, the hunt begins. Sharp reflexes deflect physical attacks, but are not enough to kill. The scent of blood triggers the ocean's frenzy. When the ocean turns its back, the sky is the only escape. But the sky has its own brutal gatekeepers. Trapped between shark jaws below and bird beaks above, the body is forced to adapt to constantly leaving the water. Biological limits are broken, no retreat left. In the moment of deepest despair, dormant genetic code is awakened. Bone structure rearranges to defy gravity. Dragonite is born. From prey, it transforms into an apex predator. Muscular strength combined with overwhelming elements. Inexperience in the new form leaves it vulnerable. Dragon's fury compressed into a single point. Hyper Beam, the final judgment. Absolute power obliterates all threats, victorious yet solitary in the vast ocean. When a child passes the trial of fire, the family comes to claim it. Mega Dragonite, the gatekeeper of the skies. The protection of the Great One. It has found its place in the New Order. A new era of survival opens far from the dark seabed. The past is the abyss. The future is the sky. Giant Chasm, a geological rift isolated by permafrost and perpetual darkness. This is home to an entity possessing the power of Wuji. Kyurem, a hollow shell remaining after the Great Split. It must freeze itself to stabilize its disintegrating cellular structure. Freezing pressure turns all movement into ruins. The silence is shattered as the energy core of truth suddenly awakens. Kyurem reacts to the intrusion of law-defying thermal energy. A compressed ice beam is launched to extinguish the primordial fire. Blue flare collides with cold air, causing violent steam explosions. Truth does not retreat, it chooses to strike at the flawed shell. The weight of emptiness carries the momentum of a mountain. Kyurem releases its suppressed state, bringing temperature to absolute zero. A destructive storm, devouring all ideals and truths. Thermal energy is neutralized by a colorless infinite force. The final moment of the struggle between existence and nothingness. Truth is, once again buried under layers of ancient ice. Kyurem restores order through absolute silence. Scars are filled with frost and solitude. The giant chasm ecosystem returns to eternal hibernation. Kyurem is the boundary that no creature is permitted to cross. It is no longer passive, but the guardian of the boundary. This power exists only to await a true hero. A soul waiting to be filled by ideals or truth. Balance is maintained at the cost of confinement. Time stands still inside the giant chasm. The world outside will never know of this encounter. Emptiness is the highest form of absolute power. In the densest forests, there exists a creature possessing the beauty of wrestling. Hawlucha is a master of fighting, possessing the pride of a true warrior. A painful past sowed the seeds for an iron will inside its soul. It chose solitude to train its body, turning scars into the strength of powerful muscles today. Absolute perseverance helped it master gravity and the ability to control the air. The silence is broken when bullies appear once again to cause trouble now. It is time for darkness to tremble before the return of the master protector in forest. Its appearance brings hope to the creatures currently trembling with fear in forest. The pride of a wrestler drives it to display elegance during the combat. Extraordinary speed leaves opponents unable to react to the precise and very powerful punches of Hawlucha. Every strike carries fairness, punishing those who use strength to bully the weak. The bullies have vanished, giving way to peace returning under the trees. Behind a fierce wrestling mask lies a kind and very generous heart. The hero's greatest reward is the joy of the weak it protects. Mission accomplished, the protector returns to the darkness to continue guarding the vast and green forest. Justice does not stop in the forest, reaching even the modern cities. Under the streetlights, the hero continues the fight against the social injustice. It is no longer the bullied child, it has become the terror. High-level confrontations help Hawlucha improve its professional and powerful wrestling skills. Technique and speed defeat brute power. Respect is built from the strength and personality of a true warrior. Its presence is a promise of safety for those creatures who cannot defend their own lives. It performs this mission to honor the memory of the great kindness. The hero needs no praise, only for this world to be peaceful. Silence brings miraculous healing power to all things after a long day. From forest to city, the Protector is always watching for any injustice. The story of the masked wrestling hero will forever be a legend. Kanto's rainforest fringe, where silence is merely a facade for lurking death. This organism functions as a sophisticated, biological spring-loaded mechanism. The hunter remains invisible, disguised as an innocuous young twig. Flash-like reflexes blur the line between flora and predatory beast. Amidst storms, this fragile anatomy becomes a biological liability. Pidgey, the aerial nemesis, dives to finish the grounded target. Its weightless skeletal structure allows escape from imminent expiration. Hydrofluoric acid, the lethal chemical weapon of this carnivorous flower. Protein accumulation triggers a radical overhaul of the genetic structure. Weepingbell, the suspended trap of the forest's mid-canopy. Sleep spores designed to paralyze the nervous systems of aerial prey. Here it faces Ariados, the ruthless phantom of the night. Potent digestive enzymes can disintegrate polymer silk in mere seconds. Fierce resistance is the only way to avoid being eaten. Ancient energies are awakening the creature's ultimate survival instincts. Victreebel, the bipedal shredder at the apex of the food chain. The sky monarch, Pidgeot, unwittingly enters the zone of death. A devastating strike, stripping the opponent of its power of flight. Cellulose membranes now possess the durability of refined alloys. Toxic sludge completely annihilates the last remnants of resistance. Death makes no sound, only the hiss of crushing acid. The fall of the mighty is sustenance for the successor. Nature offers no mercy, it only favors the perfectly adapted. In this misty forest, silence is the perfect camouflage for death. Fungus, the patient mimic, waiting for nutrition to come to it. Curiosity is often a death sentence in the wild. The eternal sleep comes very gently. But the food chain order can always be overturned. Scolipede, a ruthless predator that knows no mercy. Defensive reflex, Stun Spore to slow the enemy. But thick armor neutralizes the weak counterattack. The impact crushes the mushroom's fragile structure. Final effort, high-density sleep spores. On the brink of death, it clings to life by draining the enemy. Crushing pressure triggers cellular explosion. From the rubble, a Moonongus rises. Now, its body is a living fortress. Clear smog wipes away all the opponent's stat boosts. Draining vitality to nourish the new shell. Counterattacking the critical weak point. The death throes of a fallen predator. Rage Powder misdirects the final focus. A ruthless finisher at unavoidable range. The predator has become fertilizer for the fungus. Mew, the genetic code of the beginning, playing among its creations. But the jungle always holds deadly traps. Intervention precise to the millimeter. The power that can crush stars used to cradle a tiny life. An invisible gatekeeper, always present but rarely seen. But disaster never waits. The power to move mountains executed as light as a feather. The noise of life gives way to the deadly silence of stone and metal. An ancient war machine lying dormant waiting for energy to reboot. Innocence leads the way to the abyss. The perfect feint. Mechanical speed completely overwhelms biological reflexes. Using the machine's own momentum against it. Softness overcomes hardness. It wants to devour the entire divine genetic code. In the eye of the storm, silence is the greatest strength. The mind reaches the state of void. All noise is eliminated. The machine pours all remaining energy into one final gamble. Surgical counterattack, precise and destructive. The origin gene delivers the final verdict. Genesis Pulse. The machine has been permanently powered down.
This is the ancient river gorge where the big jaw Pokémon is born, attuned to intense hydrodynamic flux. Totodile carries innate crushing force, dangerous due to its lack of strength perception. The jaw muscles are structured like a miniature hydraulic crusher, governed by the primitive cortex. As the jaw muscles developed, the Totodile evolved to Croconaw. The adolescent stage brings greater brute force. Environmental events can lead to devastating disasters. Fallen trees and debris pose a biological threat. Guardian instinct supersedes playful reflex. The test of this Pokémon's willpower is that its biting force is hampered by its rescue instincts. Croconaw is stuck. Sheer force is withheld. Croconaw witnesses crushing fate. Absolute focus emerges. Controlling will forces it to consciously deploy sheer force. A crushing bite succeeds. The log disintegrates beneath the pulverizing jaws. Physical load peaks. Muscular biology is forced into restructuring. Feraligatr uses its big jaw as a tool for environmental control. Transmutation complete, from unconscious threat to conscious guardian. Destructive power is the symbol of authority and maturity. Feraligatr retreats to deep water, ready to control the next Hydra flux. The Guardian has claimed biological control over the territory.
A virus-based biological entity wandering in search of a new planetary host. But Earth's sky already has a guardian, Rayquaza. Immediate threat response, releasing compressed psychic energy. A collision between an alien invader and the Sky Guardian. Deoxys' cellular structure begins reprogramming to adapt. Form shift, optimizing aerodynamics and velocity. Rayquaza senses air pressure changes to counter. Overwhelming dragon power forces the opponent to change tactics. Form shift, reinforcing defensive shell structure. The biological armor absorbs and negates impact force entirely. Form shift, focusing all energy into firepower. A devastating attack, traded for bodily fragility. Escalating threat triggers the sky's ultimate evolution. Atmospheric pressure is distorted, locking down the intruder's movement. Hypervelocity breaks through all physical defensive barriers. It unleashes all combat data collected from other planets. But the sky's fire incinerates all calculations. Final solution, energy core overload. Head-on collision. Absolute power versus infinite adaptation. Biological structure collapse. Failure confirmed. It retreats, carrying data of its first defeat. The Guardian remains vigilant, knowing the threat never truly ends. Not fear, but recalculation. It will return, more perfect, more dangerous. In the heart of Kanto, an endless cycle of energy consumption begins. A small organism with a metabolic demand 10 times its body size. Thick fur isn't just for warmth, it's a mobile biological reservoir. It eats to survive and prepares for a massive transformation. In nature, vulnerability always attracts the most ruthless predators. The protective instinct is the spark that triggers latent evolution. This bond generates a powerful frequency of biological energy. Cellular structures expand rapidly. A new giant is born. Snorlax, the embodiment of stillness and the immense weight of nature. Now, its heartbeat synchronizes with the pulse of the land. It is no longer an individual. It has become an ecosystem. Its gastric juices dissolve any toxin, turning waste into pure energy. But peace is always fragile before the wrath of nature. The aggressive wildfire is devouring everything in its path. Deep sleep becomes a deadly barrier in this desperate situation. A specific sound is the only key to waking the mountain. When the giant awakens, the very ground beneath it trembles. The massive frame becomes the world's most solid fortress. The thick fat ability turns its skin into a shield against hellfire. It doesn't fight fire with water, but with pressure and weight. Every roll is a sacrifice to protect what remains of the green. Heroes need no words. They only need to stand against the storm. Nature finally soothes the pain of its silent protectors. Mission complete. Energy must now be restored through deep slumber. Laziness is in fact a long accumulation for decisive moments. A new generation continues, carrying the instinct of kindness. Peace always has a price, and Snorlax is the one who pays. Even the laziest of gods carry a noble mission. This is the ancient Pyro Forest, a geothermal biome where fire is the life source. Cyndaquil relies on internal thermogenic fusion. The flickering flame signals thermal inhibition. Fear response causes an abrupt thermal spike, which is instantly destabilized. Faint embers are used as a chemical signal to deter competitive organisms. Social interaction does not provoke a strong thermal response, but emotional indignation does. Transmutation begins. Quilava Quilliver emerges with a more efficient combustion system. Predatory pressure forces Quilliver to discharge kinetic energy by jet propulsion. Quilliver is forced into a survival bottleneck. Thermal inhibition returns. Fear transmutes into absolute fury, reaching nuclear temperature. Thermal load activates complete morphological restructuring. Typhlosion emerges. The flame is now a stable thermal caldera. Typhlosion establishes dominance over the thermal zone. It utilizes its dorsal reactor to project an overwhelming thermal discharge. Granbull retreats. Heat exceeds physical tolerance. Typhlosion has mastered its combustion system. The stable flame is now the symbol of maturity and authority. It uses its thermal aura to regulate the habitat temperature. Typhlosion patrols, dissipating fog with body heat. The flame becomes a biological beacon, signaling safe rest state. Its flame synchronizes with the volcano's geothermal source. Typhlosion, the thermal master, has achieved elemental mastery. In the harshest geological labyrinths, food is a privilege. To survive, Axew must turn itself into a ghost at the bottom of the valley. Growth requires shedding. Through constant grinding, the old ivory peels away to reveal the ultra-dense calcium structure inside. As its biological size increases to the fracture form, its energy demands also force it to expand its territory. It ventures deep into narrow canyons, places that hold resources but lack escape space. And here, the food chain is absolutely dominated by a massive biomechanical machine, Crocodile. Its ability to manipulate the geological epicenter creates shockwaves that devastate all balancing efforts. To retaliate, Fracture focuses energy into its claws, creating biological plasma blades. But the difference in body mass is a cruel physical law that cannot be broken by speed. The apex predator immediately uses stratigraphic pressure to completely lock down the space. An unstable thermal mass is released at point-blank range to buy a few life or death seconds. However, in nature, life or death pressure is the most powerful catalyst. Internal energy reaches saturation, triggering a complete metamorphosis explosion at the cellular level. Using primal rhythms, it pushes its circulatory system into a state of controlled overload, maximizing physical kinetic energy. Crocodile attempts to re-establish distance with physical barriers, but Hakrus's new muscular system has surpassed all inertia limits. In a final survival effort, the former king releases all remaining seismic energy. Exploiting the opponent's momentum, Haxorus converges all kinetic energy into a single mechanical cutting trajectory. Centrifugal force turns the tusks into a lethal tool. Enduring maximum impact, the biological alloy structure of the tusks retains not a single scratch. At the very end of this barren stone labyrinth, the food chain has officially welcomed a new supreme apex predator.